Hey guys, so this is my top 10 albums of 2017, part 1, finally. And I'm going to be going through the first 5 of those records, so numbers 10 through 6. This has been a very good year for album releases, as I've already done 2 videos of just honorable mentions and other albums that I'd like to check out. So let's just cut right to the chase and get to the first album on our list, number 10, Dragon Force, Reaching into Infinity. This is an album I've had the pleasure of listening to a few weeks before it actually came out. It has probably the most variety of any Dragon Force record so far, incorporating some electronic influences, some progressive metal influences, and there's the track The Edge of the World, which is this 11-minute opus. It's just incredible. Mark Hudson does some really good harsh vocals on it. Everybody, and I mean everybody, takes a solo on this track. It's incredible. But then it also has these different tempos, these different feels that aren't really something you associate with Dragon Force. I mean, the joke with this band is they only have one song. Well, now they have 2. And the rest of the album, the songs are still very solid, very catchy, hooky tracks that are sure to please any Dragon Force fan. I really like that since the band has taken on Mark Hudson as a vocalist, the songs have kind of become a little shorter on average, a little more concise. The solos aren't quite as nuts, but they're still incredible, as you would expect from Herman Lee and Sam Totman. Absolutely great. Killer record. So number 9 is Coma Cluster Void's Thoughts from a Stone. These guys kind of almost have a bit of a disadvantage that they were introduced to the world as the band that plays 10-string guitars, and of course the extended range guitar scene being what it is, it's not a very inclusive scene. So the band is kind of maybe seen some backlash simply for string count, which is really stupid because their first album, Mind Cemeteries, was just this absolutely mind-blowing, dissonant, heavy death metal record that's just unlike anything else in the scene. As well, the band kind of has some more socially progressive tendencies that maybe aren't to the taste of some people in the death metal scene. I, for one, am really happy with that aspect of them, and they don't really let it seep into their music too much. They're not preachy about it, but there is definitely that aspect to their music, and Thoughts from a Stone is just this really great sort of single-track EP that's sort of like one big 25-minute composition, some of the most tightly scripted but completely insane death metal stuff I've ever heard. Give these guys a listen. They're incredible. Number 8 on our list is SikTh, The Future in Whose Eyes. Now, of course, a lot of people will associate djent with bands like Periphery and Tesseract, but you got to kind of look back at some of the originators of the genre, and SikTh are arguably probably the band that really started djent. And they did come back with Opacities a couple years ago, a little 4 or 5 song EP, and that one was really good too, and this is sort of a continuation of it. I'd say my only real criticism of The Future in Whose Eyes is it doesn't quite feature as many fast, energetic tunes as their first 2 records did, but there's still some really incredible guitar work on this record, some really incredible riffs, songwriting is really good. Probably the best initial single I've heard of any album on this list, Golden Cufflinks. Just truly wonderful track. These guys have made a really good comeback, and I'm happy to see more SikTh. Number 7, Steven Wilson, To the Bone. I'm fully convinced Steven Wilson could release an album of fart noises and NPR samples. And as long as he's got Ninette Tayeb featured on it, it's going to be at the top of everyone's top 10 prog albums list for the year. And, not really much different here. He's kind of gone in a little bit more of a pop direction on the record, which, a lot of people thought, well, that's kind of unprecedented, but really, all you have to do is go back to Porcupine Tree's Stupid Dream, and you kind of see where he's coming from onto the Bone. It's weird because Steven Wilson's the kind of guy that can take just about any style of music, anything, and just make it pretentious as fuck. And he manages to do that with pop music this time around. So, there are a few really good, strong tracks on this record. I really, really liked Pariah, which, of course, features Ninette Tayeb, who I think she's probably one of my favorite singers, hands down, on anything that's been released this year. I hope to hear more of her. And I also really enjoyed Permeating, the upbeat pop song of the year. And Detonation has a really cool outro jam that just gets me every time. So on the strength of those three tracks alone, I'd say To the Bone definitely deserves a spot in my top 10 list. But I'd say out of all of Steven Wilson's solo albums so far, it's probably the one I'm going to be spinning the least, next to maybe Insurgents. I never really caught on with that record. I don't know why. So now we're getting to number 6, the last record I'll talk about here, and it's Leprous with Malina. And that record, kind of in the same vein as Steven Wilson, the band has taken a little bit more of a straightforward, almost pop-oriented direction with the record. Something that actually kind of suits them a bit, because they've always kind of had a little bit more of a punchy sort of song-oriented writing style compared to most prog bands, where, they'll kind of go off the deep end with, widdly solos and, these extravagant instrumental section, whereas Leprous has always kind of been everything serving the song. So, you'll have pieces that are structured more like a pop song, but maybe have, weird time signatures and off-kilter guitar riffs. And it seems on Malina they've really sort of honed that to a point where the songwriting itself is more to the point and straightforward than it's ever been, but they still manage to keep the progressive tendencies of their past records on this record. And the style's maybe a little softer. It's not quite as much in the metal realm, but this is an album that fits right in with that whole sort of modern take on progressive metal. And, it's just another one of those records that you can sit down and listen to, and it'll just blow you away every time you hear it. From the Flame, absolutely probably one of the best choruses of the year, hands down. So anyway, that's the first half of my top 10 list. I'm hoping to have the other half of that done tomorrow. There's some pretty good records on that half of the list, so stay tuned for that one. Anyway, I guess I should probably clean this place up, because it's almost Christmas, woo!